Beep, 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 beep. Hey, welcome to the court of the EDI Jester. How are we, good people? Can't get rid of this tickle. Where's that? What was that in? Oh, the thick of it, wasn't it? Mr. Tickle's tent-based twattery. For those in the know, you'll remember. See? Can't get rid of it. This nice coffee lungo will help to loosen the vocal cords so I can keep going. It's insane. Now, we get to the point, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I keep repeating myself. How low can we go as a society? How low can we go? Right? It's like the bloke up in court for having sex with a sheep. The judge says to him, Mr. Jones, how low can you go? And Mr. Jones says, well, I once blew a rabbit. Okay, you want to see low? This is as low as it gets. There is a transgender activist called Sophie Grace Chappelle. And it's important you know more about him. So this is what we're going to tell you today, because I've got an article from the Daily Fail. Subscribe. Click the little picture of the jester and subscribe. If you click the little picture of the jester, you can subscribe. Turn your notifications on, become a warrior teacher, buy me a coffee, all the usual beggary stuff that I do, okay? Let's go with transgender activist who said would not matter. This transgender activist, Sophie Grace Chappelle, who said would not matter if the number of female murders increased if men were allowed to self-identify as women, is devising ethics rules for therapists. Do you want to hear me say it again? I think we should, don't you? Transgender activist who said it would not matter if the number of female murders increased if men were allowed to self-identify as women, is devising ethics rules for therapists. Yep, that's how low we can go. Okay? A transgender academic accused of saying it would not matter if the number of female murders increased has been put in charge of creating guidelines for therapists, the Mail on Sunday can reveal. Philosophy professor Sophie Grace Chappelle is on the core team revising the British Association of Counselling and Psychotherapies National Ethical Framework. But some therapists have spoken of their fears about about his involvement because of comments he made in 2021 radio interview rejecting feminist groups' fears that controversial SNP plans to allow men to legally self-identify as female without undergoing any medical procedures could put women at risk. They shouldn't be able to do it at all, right? They shouldn't be able to do any medical thing at all. That's me, hard line, burnt, scorched earth, right? Campaigners said such laws would allow men with predatory intentions automatic access to female-only spaces by identifying as women. But Professor Chappelle, who is male, he's got a whole thing about, was born male, began living as a woman. He was male, let's say it like it is, told the BBC's Kay Adams that such fears were not based on real data. He imagined a world in which gay people faced a process to be accepted as homosexual, similar to trans people needing a gender recognition certificate to be acknowledged as a different sex. There is no connection and no correlation between being gay and trans, other than forcing gay children to become trans so that it fits in with their weird, gender-addled way of seeing the world. It's so... We've got another picture of handsome James S. is there, right? It's just, they conflate homosexuality with the mental illness of gender dysphoria. I don't even think it's that. I think it's body dysmorphia and associated comorbidities, or it's a fetish and a paraphilia. There is no in between. It's going to be awful. It says here, if that was challenged, he said people would say there's going to be a crime wave or dreadful homosexual murders. It's going to be awful if you do that. I think you'd rightly dismiss that as scaremongering. Well, you're using a false equivalence, mate. Professor of philosophy, fire him. It doesn't matter if a few women. That's horrendous, isn't it? It won't matter if a few women get murdered as long as we get self-ID. Because, of course, gay people said, look, we know that us being gay and having the same rights as you means women are going to get murdered. But it doesn't matter if there's a few. All right? Got the tea on, Tarkin? No? Hey? That's what gay people did, wasn't it? Oh, we're sorry, we know that, a few children are going to get mutilated. But that's okay. It's a price worth paying, isn't it? For us gays to be our authentic self. There is no connection between gay and trans. None. Not one. Not one. And any gay man who says he's trans is just pretending he's not gay. Absolutely insane. And this guy's working for the bloody BACP. What are they thinking? These utter nut jobs inside our organisations. How many more are? Oh, actually, there's some more coming, I think, on the videos, right? But it reminds me, a few years back, I'm sure I've told you this story before. This is the trouble with doing as many videos as I do. I can't remember. You have to tell me off if I'm repeating myself. Right? I was having a coffee with a couple of police officers. Or to get it correctly, I think it was a police officer and a PCSO, right? And we were talking about female on male assault in the gay scene. Yes, it's a thing, right? More of a thing than you know. And I had a real fire on my ass about this one at the time. Going back, 4 or 5 years now at least. I had a real fire in my belly about this one at that time, and because I'd had a couple of the young lads working in the village, 20, 21 years old, and I was discussing it with them, and they were saying it's not something that happens rarely. It's a nightly occurrence on a Friday and a Saturday. They expect to get assaulted by women multiple times in a gay bar on a Friday and a Saturday. Right? And I was telling this to these two people, this policeman and a PCSO, and they were looking at me in absolute abject disbelief. Right? And then they sort of went, well, if they want to report it, they can, as if reporting it they wouldn't be taken seriously. At which point I just thought to myself, I'm not sure where these people stand on this, but I asked the question. And the question illuminates the same kind of thing as Sophie Grace Chappelle said, which when they said, I said to them, so, okay. I said, so let me get this straight with reporting this type of thing. We have to get it right. We don't want people to be, victims of false allegations. We don't want people to be accused of something that they haven't done. I said, but we do want to get the ones that are sexually assaulting gay men, don't we? Well, yes, they can report it. Yes, that's what they were saying to me. Okay. At which point I said, okay, but just so we can get it right, let me know. How many innocent people would you put in jail to catch a rapist? Right? Because I want to know what their mindset was about this. At which point one of them responded and went, maybe 3 or 4. Same mindset. End justifies the means. End justifies the means. The court system set up for the one person that's innocent. God damn it, and this will sacrifice some women. It's okay if you get murdered. What is this idiot thinking? The critics of Professor Chappelle say is suggesting any small rise in murders of women under self-ID laws is insignificant compared to the importance of trans rights, and they fear he could, in his new role, introduce BACP guidelines restricting what therapists can say to clients. If they don't get their ban, they'll do it this way. If they don't understand what we fight, okay? Understand the way of the nature of it. It's like a fart. Goes through every gap. Right? They'll get through every. You've got to be alert to the language. You've got to be alert to what they're doing. And you've got to be alert to where they're doing it. Right? The BACP said those reviewing its guidelines include experts with a diverse range of knowledge, perspective, and experience. We don't need that. We don't need that diversity. What we need is expertise in the field. Okay, proven expertise in the field. This is disastrous. But I'm convinced that the strength of the people that are involved in this industry, who I know, some of whom were warrior teachers, the others who will be a gen spec at the moment, for example, they need to fight back against this totally. I mean, fully. And hard times require hard things. This is one of them. Careful that nicey chat doesn't take us down the wrong road. The BACP, who do these people think they are? Anyway, go read it. It's in the Daily Fell. Links from the Dewberries. I'll see you later. Oh, have a lovely day.